Hey cinephiles, in this video I'm going to be showing and telling my personal 2019 year in review on Letterboxd. Now if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you already know what Letterboxd is, and if you'd like to skip straight to my 2019 year in review, there's a time code in the description. For everyone else, here's a quick crash course. Letterboxd is a social network made by cinephiles for cinephiles. It lets you keep track of everything you watch, show love for your favorite films, list and reviews, write, share, and read reviews, rate each film on a 5-star scale, keep a diary of your film watching, and my favorite, compile and share lists of films. The service is thankfully free to use and includes all those features, but there are 2 membership tiers with additional features. Those who opt in for at least a pro membership, which is what I have, will get a personalized annual and all-time stats page based on diary entries and watched films. And it's that year in review I'm going to be focusing on here. My purposes with this video are twofold. First, to show you what my 2019 in film watching looked like, and second, to give anyone who might be interested in these year in reviews a thorough demonstration of what all is included. Alright, let's get to it. Here's my 2019 year in review, which I am going to provide a link to in the description. Right off the bat, it hits you with the big stats. Diary entries, that's how many individual films you logged as watched on a specific date. Basically, if you log everything you watch, which I do, this is how many films you watched that year. So 276. This is actually my lowest yearly total since I started logging films on Letterboxd back in 2013. This number is very important though, because almost everything you see below is using the data from these 276 diary entries. 59 reviews, this is the number that hurts the most. I really slacked off in my Letterboxd reviews last year. One of my resolutions in 2020 is to write something about everything I watch, because anything is better than nothing, right? As a cinephile, I want these numbers to be equal so that I'm reviewing everything I'm watching. There's actually a pie chart for that very thing later on. Anyway, let's do better. 20 lists. Alright, I feel like I'm always making lists on Letterboxd. You'll briefly see some of those in a bit. 169 likes. I believe this is how many films I gave a heart to when logging them, which is pretty insignificant. I tend to do that if I'm giving something 4 or more stars, but it's really the most subjective thing on here. 36 comments. I'm guessing this is how many comments I've made on other people's reviews and lists last year, and apparently I spent over 454 hours watching films, which is nearly 19 days, the better part of a month. Time well spent if you ask me, and fun fact, most of that was spent watching Marty Scorsese's The Irishman. Moving down, here are my highest rated films. Looks like I gave 5 films the coveted 5-star rating: Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Lighthouse, Uncut Gems, Apollo 11, A Hidden Life. I think I'd stand by all of those. Then a handful of films nearly there with 4.5 stars. Next, it shows your films by week with a line graph. Clicking on any of those lines will show you exactly what you watched that week. It's funny to see the most watched week. For me, that was April 9th, which was right after the Criterion Channel launch. Definitely not a coincidence. Then it takes that total figure, breaks it down by month, by week, and even day of the week. Strangely, Thursday is my most watched day of the week, while Sunday is my least. Next, milestones. The first film I watched in 2019 was Clint Eastwood's The Mule. Not a great start, but I made up for that with Mike Birbiglia's fantastic new special aptly titled The New One. It's streaming on Netflix. I highly recommend it. In the middle here, I have my most watched, several films I saw twice. Next is featured lists. Now, this placement is entirely up to the user. These are custom lists you create and control yourself. You don't need to have any, or you can add up to 10. I like to specifically include these 5 ranked lists in this order: 2019 films, documentaries, short films, short documentaries, and comedy specials. I'm not going to dive into each of these lists now because I'd like to do separate videos for some of these very subjects, not to mention they are far from finalized at this point. But if you want to check them out, feel free. Again, that link is in the description. Now we get into some of the really fun stats. These first graphs break down what you've seen by genre, country, and language. 122 drama films, nearly 200 American films, and the vast majority of what I watched was in English. This is actually pretty typical for my personal film diet, though every year I see this one, I really wish it were more diverse. We'll see how 2020 goes. Next, it breaks it down in some interesting ways. 46.4% of the films I watched were 2019 releases. I like to watch a lot of new films in theaters and a lot of older films at home, which explains this pretty even pie chart. I don't rewatch a lot of films. I usually prioritize things I haven't seen before, so this makes sense. And once again, a painful reminder that I've been slacking off on reviews. Okay, look, I find ratings of any kind rather arbitrary, but I do give films a star rating just to have some sort of spectrum. It actually helps when ranking a large amount of films. In a balanced world, this would peak more towards the middle, but these days I'm actually somewhat picky about what I see, and I tend to only watch films I'm interested in, films I think I will like, or films that have received certain acclaim. I'm no longer going out of my way to see every wide release. I tried that for a while and it was exhausting. So there's an explanation for that. And this is how many films from my watch list I saw and added to my watch list, which won't really mean anything to anyone else. Moving on. Stars breaks down which actors I watched the most in 2019. Samuel L. Jackson nabs the top spot thanks to the MCU. Of course, Keanu Reeves, who had a breathtaking 2019.
You're breathtaking!
ScarJo, Adam Driver. You can also switch over to highest rated, which is based on the star rating you gave each film. Chow Yun-fat has a perfect 5 because I watched The Killer and Hardboiled. That was actually a double feature at the Arrow in Santa Monica with John Woo in attendance, an amazing night. It does the same thing with directors, Agnes Varda in The House, and over here, these are all filmmakers whose films I saw I gave 5 stars to. You can do the same toggle on all these crew and studios categories. My most watched here is producer Emma Tillinger-Koskoff, who had an exceptional year producing Joker, The Irishman, Uncut Gems, The Souvenir. She works a lot with Mr. Scorsese, and Stephen King. I watched all the Pet Sematary movies in 2019, and of course some of those new adaptations. It shows your most liked review and your most liked list. Highs and lows, this takes everyone's ratings into account. I know that Parasite is the highest rated film on Letterboxd, not just of 2019, but the entire decade. Lowest average, Serenity, very deserving. Get Out, which I rewatched in 2019, is the most popular. Most obscure, The She Factor. That makes sense because I'm actually the one who added that to the database. Okay, we're nearly finished. Then it hits you with a massive wall of posters for every film you watched in 2019, and that's not even all of them. You can click to see all 276. Then there's this world map, definitely one of my favorite features of the year in review. This visualizes the country stat from earlier. 198 American films, 48 from the UK, 14 Japanese. Sadly, no North Korean films this year. And finally, to make you feel bad one last time, but in all seriousness, this is actually a great resource for what to add to the top of your watch list. Highly rated films you missed. I am planning on seeing these, except maybe these 2 BTS documentaries. Much to my wife's dismay, I'm sure. And there you have it, my 2019 year in review on Letterboxd. Hopefully somebody somewhere found this of some interest or some use. Again, there's a link in the description if you'd like to check it out for yourself. Also, Letterboxd has their own 2019 year in review, compiling data from all users for a whole slew of categories. It also includes best of the decade. It's beautiful, and I highly recommend giving it a scroll through. I'll link to that in the description as well. If you have any thoughts or questions about my year in review, your year in review, Letterboxd, or anything related, please let me know in the comments below, and feel free to share your Letterboxd usernames while you're down there so we can all enjoy a cinematic 2020 together. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and subscribe to Cineflect for video essays, ranked lists, mashups, and occasional oddities, and click that bell next to the subscribe button if you'd like to be notified anytime I upload a new video. For Cineflect, I'm JS Lewis. Until next time, watch something good.